So when you think of the Bhagavad Gita, your mind probably jumps straight to, deep philosophy, spiritual wisdom, right? But what's so incredible is how it all begins. It's not with some grand sermon. No, it starts with this super tense psychological standoff on a battlefield. And that's what we're going to dive into today. How one of the world's greatest spiritual texts kicks off with pure, raw human drama.
So how does a war for, the entire world, how does that begin? Well, it turns out not with a bang, not with the clash of swords. It starts with a simple question. A question that is just loaded with fear, with attachment, and a whole lot of bias. And it's spoken by a blind king who's miles and miles away from the actual fighting.
And that brings us right to our first character, the blind king Dhritarashtra. I mean, the very first words of the entire Gita are his. And believe me, they tell you everything you need to know about this conflict before a single arrow even flies. Listen to this. He says, "O Sanjaya, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do when they assembled on the holy field of Kurukshetra, eager to fight?" Did you catch that? He doesn't say the family or the cousins. He says my sons and the sons of Pandu. That distinction, it's immediate, it's deliberate. His question isn't neutral at all. It's dripping with partiality. He's already drawn a line right down the middle. And this is where it gets really interesting. According to the commentaries, the king's physical blindness is this powerful metaphor. It represents his spiritual blindness, this total inability to see past his own attachments, his own desperate hope that his sons, the Kauravas, will win no matter what's right or wrong. And think about where he says this is all happening. Dharmakshetra, the field of righteousness. This isn't just some random piece of land. The name itself frames the entire war not just as a fight for a kingdom, but as a test, a crucible for moral and spiritual justice. And you can almost feel the king's anxiety here, right? Because deep down he knows that a holy field is probably going to favor the righteous side. Okay, so let's shift gears. Let's head to the actual battlefield and see how this anxiety is playing out on the ground. We're now focusing on the car of a leader, Prince Duryodhana. And while he's trying to project all this power, his actions are basically screaming deep, gnawing insecurity. And the first thing he does is really telling. Think about it. He's got a bigger army, he's got the legendary Bhishma as his supreme commander. But who does he walk over to? His old military teacher, Drona. This isn't just a casual chat. It's a subtle clue that reveals his insecurity. He's not there to rally his troops. He's looking for some kind of strategic reassurance. And then he starts doing this anxious math. He starts meticulously listing out all the key warriors on the other side. And in this moment of pure nervous energy, he even takes a jab at his own teacher, Drona, by pointing out that the enemy army is led by Drishtadyumna. I mean, come on. That's the guy who's prophesied to kill Drona. By calling them all Maharathas, or these great, unstoppable warriors, he's basically showing his hand. He's really, really worried about the skill of the fighters he's up against. So after sizing up the enemy's strength, what's his next move? He starts listing his own commanders. But you gotta see this for what it is. This isn't for his men's benefit. It's pure bravado. He's literally giving himself a pep talk out loud, trying to convince himself that, yeah, his side is definitely stronger. And this little chart just illustrates his headspace perfectly. He looks at his own army, protected by the brilliant strategist Bhishma, and declares it immeasurable, unlimited. But then he looks at their army, protected by the powerful but maybe less strategic Bhima, and calls it limited, conquerable. Now, the source material is crystal clear on this. This is not a factual military assessment. This is pure anxiety talking. It's a desperate attempt to frame the odds in a way that makes him feel better. And here is the dead giveaway. After boasting about how his army is basically invincible, what's his very next command? He tells all of his generals they need to focus their energy on protecting Bhishma. This just pulls back the curtain on his deepest fear. He knows that despite all his numbers, if Bhishma falls, that supposedly immeasurable army of his is going to crumble. Okay, now things are about to get really cinematic. The first big clash on the battlefield, it's not with swords or arrows. It's with sound. This is a psychological war, and the weapons are conch shells and drums. So Bhishma, sensing Duryodhana's panic,
decides to act. He lets out this mighty lion's roar and blows his conch shell to try and boost his prince's morale. And the entire Kaurava army just follows his lead. They unleash this one massive, chaotic, tumultuous roar. The goal's simple: be overwhelming. Create this terrifying wall of noise.
But the Pandava response? Oh, it's completely different. It is deliberate, it is structured, and it feels divine. First, you have Krishna and Arjuna, and they're on this magnificent chariot pulled by these brilliant white horses, a huge symbol of purity and spiritual power, and they blow their divine conches. And then, one by one, their allies join in. This isn't chaos. This is a symphony of unified, righteous purpose. And this is a crucial detail. Unlike the Kaurava's anonymous roar, each of the main Pandava conches has its own name, its own identity. You have Krishna's Panchajanya, Arjuna's Devadatta, which means God-given, Yudhishthira's Ananta Vidya, or eternal victory. See, their response isn't just random noise. It's a powerful statement, a declaration of individual strength and a shared righteous destiny.
And the effect was absolutely devastating. The text says this unified resonant sound didn't just echo across the field, it pierced the hearts of the Kauravas. I mean, wow, that was the first major psychological blow, and it completely shattered their confidence. It foreshadowed their defeat before the real fighting even started.
And that brings us to the final, incredibly tense moment of this whole opening chapter. The sounds have faded away now, and the focus tightens, shrinking from these vast armies down to just one man. It's like the camera zooms right in on Arjuna. He sees the enemy lines all laid out before him, and at the very last second, right before the fighting is supposed to begin, he raises his legendary bow, Gandiva. He's ready. You can just feel the tension is at its absolute peak. And the text gives him a very specific title here, Kapitvaja. It means he whose banner bore the emblem of Hanuman, the mighty monkey god. Now, this is not just some cool, colorful detail. It's a symbol of unimaginable strength and divine protection, a final reminder to everyone of the sacred power fighting on Arjuna's side.
So everything has led to this exact moment. The armies are poised, the sounds of war have died down, the greatest warrior of his generation has his bow raised, ready to let loose. But what happens when he looks across that field and doesn't just see enemies? What happens when he sees his cousins, his beloved teachers, his own grand-uncles staring back at him? That single question, right there, that's the cliffhanger on which the entire Bhagavad Gita is built.